The former Parkersburg Fire Station 3 on Liberty Street has officially been demolished. The national average response time is 4 minutes, where the former fire station was just above 4 minutes on the far east side of town. Now the new station on Briant Street allows all calls to have a response time of 4 minutes or less. Now the property will sit vacant until the city council decides what to do with it.
For a number of years, we've looked at improving the response times, and early on I realized that there was a large section of our east end that wasn't in our desired response time. So by moving that just slightly, just less than a half mile, we're able to encompass those areas in our desired response time.
There's a new fire station on Briant Street, right, half a mile east of here. The city of Parkersburg taxpayers are paying for that building, paying for the maintenance, paying the electric. We certainly don't need to ask the taxpayers to pay for 2 fire stations when we're only going to use one of them.
Before this building was demolished, it experienced multiple break-ins, and tearing it down prevents further vandalism and protects neighboring residents.